All right. Now, which minor harmonies can we put into a major piece? Which ones will work? Well, let's take a look. I went ahead and I've written all the Roman numerals for the major and the minor scale back to back. Let's see which ones will work. I'm going to just go ahead and tell you the 4 most common borrowed chords that we see. The most common are going to be 2, 3, 4, and 6. You'll notice that 5 is already the same, as is the leading tone, 7. In fact, you could argue that 5 and 7 are chords that the major has been borrowed into the minor, right? Normally, if we were just using the natural minor scale, 5 should be minor, but essentially we're borrowing the leading tone from major. By borrowing the leading tone from major into minor gives us major 5 and diminished 7. But we're talking about which chords can we borrow from the minor into the major scale. So 2, 3, 4, and 6. 2, 3, 4, and 6. These are the ones that we're going to see borrowed into the scale. Now this is how it will look. So let's say that we decide to use a borrowed 2 instead of a regular 2. Then of course all we need to do is make 2 diminished. So now we have a borrowed 2 or diminished 2 in the major key. How would we do 3? Well, with 3, notice that we have to lower the root, right? Here the root is do, re, mi, and here the root is do, re, mi. So with me, we have to change mi to me. We have to lower the root. And then, of course, we have to spell it as a major triad. So F sharp, A, C sharp, F sharp minor becomes F, A, C, F major. And we're not going to call it 3, we're going to call it flat 3. And the reason we call it flat 3, or if you want to think of it as this way, think of it as lowered 3. We call it lowered 3 because we took the root and we lowered it. We flatted it. In this case, we took a sharp and lowered it to a natural. But the idea is if we borrow 3, we can't just call it 3 because 3 would be F sharp. But since it's going to be a lowered version of 3, we call it flat 3. Now here's 4. All we need to do on 4 is put a flat in. And of course, it goes from being major 4 to minor 4. And lastly, we have 6. Notice again that we have to do the same thing as we did with 3. We're going to take the root, which would be B, and now we're lowering it to B flat. And then we're going to make it into a major triad. So we need to have 2 accidentals on this one as well. So 6 becomes flat 6. So notice that with 2 we changed it to diminished. With 4 we changed it to minor. With 3 and 6 they became major, but we had to put the flat to indicate that now they're on a lowered root. Instead of being on F sharp, now it's been lowered to F. Instead of on B, now it's been lowered to B flat. Anyway, these are our 4 most common types of borrowed harmonies. And of course, you can't write any good film score without using a borrowed chord. I'll give you an example. Here is borrowed 3. This is flat 3. So anyway, that was a major triad. Of course, we're in the major key, but then it immediately goes and uses the flat 3 chord to give it that sort of dark majesty.